Welcome to the Flight Levels. If you've been watching the channel recently, you may have heard me briefly mention an air traffic control clearance trainer that I've been working on. This video is not a typical Flight Levels episode. There's no story, and there's no analysis of a specific incident. Instead, I want to take a few minutes to explain why I built the trainer, who it's designed for, and just as importantly, who it's not for. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time on both sides of the microphone. As a radar controller, I issued countless IFR clearances, and later as a flight instructor, I spent just as much time teaching pilots how to copy those clearances and read them back correctly. And I kept seeing the same thing over and over again. Most pilots weren't struggling because they were careless. They weren't struggling because they didn't care. They were struggling because they didn't get enough realistic practice before they ever keyed the mic. Clearance readbacks tend to break down under pressure. They break down when workload is high. They break down when English isn't your first language. And for a lot of pilots, the only real practice they get is during an actual flight on a busy frequency when mistakes matter. In most training environments, radio work gets practiced in short bursts. You might hear a sample clearance once, you might read off a page, you might practice one during a lesson, but repetition is limited, and repetition is what builds confidence. What I wanted was a way for pilots to practice IFR clearances outside the airplane without time pressure and without tying up a controller or an instructor, but still in a way that feels realistic. That's where the ATC Clearance Trainer comes in. At its core, the idea is simple. You're presented with a realistic IFR clearance structured the way a controller would actually issue it in the United States, and your job is to read it back correctly. The clearances aren't generic, they follow real-world formats. They include the things that actually trip pilots up, and you can practice as many times as you want at your own pace. There's no rush, there's no pressure, and no one is listening while you make mistakes. This is important. The trainer is not meant to replace real instruction. It's not meant to replace talking to real controllers. And it's not meant to teach you how to fly IFR. Think of it as a supplement. It's a place to build comfort and familiarity, so when you do get on the radio, you're spending less mental energy just trying to decode the clearance. This tool is especially useful for instrument students who are still building confidence, pilots who don't fly IFR very often, non-native English speakers, and flight instructors who want a structured way to have students practice readbacks. If radio work has ever felt like the most stressful part of an IFR departure, this is probably aimed at you. On the other hand, this probably isn't for pilots who fly IFR every week and are already very comfortable on the radio, anyone looking for a shortcut around proper training, or anyone expecting air traffic control to sound identical everywhere in the country. Real-world ATC is nuanced, regional, and workload dependent. No trainer can or should try to eliminate that. The best way to use this trainer is as repetition, not memorization. Read the clearance, say it out loud, make mistakes, fix them, do it again. That kind of low-stress repetition pays off when you're sitting at a non-towered airport, engine running, knowing the controller on the other end is busy. If this sounds like something that would be useful to you or your students, you'll find a link to the Air Traffic Control Clearance Trainer in the description. And if it's not for you, that's perfectly fine. Regular Flight Levels content will continue exactly as it always has. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't just fly, climb to the flight levels.